Hi, I'm Rob from MicksGarage.com. Today we're going to show you how to change the brake discs and pads on your car. The car we're using for this demo is a 3 Series E46 BMW. Let's get started. First job we need to do is take the brake disc locating bolt out, and to loosen it off you'll need to get somebody inside the car with their foot on the brake to just undo it the first couple of turns, because the disc will want to rotate freely. After it's loosened you can just wind it out. Completely remove that, put it somewhere safe. Next job we need to do is remove the brake pad retaining clip. It just prizes backwards and then get a pair of pliers and out. Next we have to remove the caliper from the caliper carrier. This is the carrier here, and to do that we need to remove the guide pins, which are just located behind these dust covers here. Pop those little caps off. And behind there are two Allen key bolts, and we just need a 7mm Allen key, and we can remove those guide pins. The guide pins might need just a little bit of persuading to remove. When you have the guide pins out, then the caliper should just come off, but if the disc is really badly worn, it's going to be quite difficult to get the caliper out over the edge of the disc, so you might just need to do a bit of prizing to see it come out. And you might also need to try and push the piston back into the caliper to free up some space to get the caliper off. There we go. What we're going to do next is just suspend the caliper from the spring here so that we don't put any strain on the brake hose. So we just use a cable tie through the eye of the caliper there, and we'll hook it round top of the coil spring. There we go, and we can take the pad out from the piston. As you can see, really badly worn, and the back of the disc is extremely badly worn as well. Now we're just going to remove the last pad. It might need a bit of gentle persuading, and then we have to take the caliper carrier off altogether. Now, the carrier should just come straight off. We'll give it a good clean up with a wire brush before we put that back. Now we're just going to take the disc off and put the new one on. Depending on the condition of the disc, how long it's been on the car, you might just need a bit of gentle persuasion to get it off. It should come off relatively easily. As you can see, this one is in terrible condition. So the new disc seats nicely. We'll just clean round here with a wire brush. Before we fit our new Freemax discs, we're just going to do a quick visual check to make sure the holes all line up and they're the same diameter, and they are. What we are going to do is just use a little, very small amount of anti-seize grease around the hub there, just a tiny bit. Always been extremely careful that we don't get any grease near the friction surface or the braking surface of the disc itself. So just a little bit. That's all we need. That's enough. We'll pop the disc on. Line up your disc with the locating hole. Get your locating bolt back in. We just do that finger tight for now. If you do get any grease or oil on the disc, just make sure you wipe it off before you go any further. on both sides. Now the disc is on, we've taken the carrier, given it a clean with the wire brush, especially where the pads are going to sit, and we just refit that to the hub. The caliper carrier bolts need to be torqued up to 88 foot-pounds, so set your torque wrench, just tighten those up. Now before we can refit our pads, we just need to cut the caliper down, and we're going to have to wind back this piston, push this piston back as far as we can into the caliper. Before we compress the brake piston caliper, you just want to remove the cap from the brake fluid reservoir, and the best thing to use is a caliper wind back tool like this. So simply pop it in to the center of the caliper there and open it out, and it has a 1/2 inch drive. You just put your normal, pop it in there and just wind it gently. You see the caliper start to push back, sorry, the piston start to push back inside the caliper. Now with the piston fully back in the caliper, we're just going to pop the pad into this side of the caliper, and we use a tiny bit of the anti-squeal, anti-seize grease, only a very small amount. Just pop it around the edge of the piston there. Pop the pad into the piston. And we just put a little bit on the other side as well. Slide that back into the carrier. Now we can just position the caliper back into place. And just take a little bit of wiggling. There we go. Now we have to pop our guide pins back into place. The guide pins should be torqued to 22 foot-pounds. Replace your dust caps. Then we need to replace our retaining clip. Sure you remember to tighten the cap on the brake fluid reservoir. With the cap back on the brake fluid reservoir, just get somebody to sit inside the car, put their foot on the brake so that you can fully tighten up the locating bolt on the disc brake. So that's it. The other side is exactly the same. It's always important to change both sides if you're doing discs or pads, never just do the one side. We stock a huge range of Freemax discs and pads for virtually every make and model of car and van on the road, all available to buy online from MicksGarage.com.